Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode. Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This is Rachel Fiori, your host for this episode. I would love to dive into the real reason you lose people when you spiritually awaken, when you start to heal and elevate and heal for real, and you find your power and you connect to your divinity. You are growing, you are elevating, you are expanding, you are dissolving your shadow self, your ego. You're becoming an all around more magnificent version of yourself. You're becoming a better human being. And this should be reason to celebrate, right? This should be reason to have your loved ones, the people that are closest to you, the friends you've had. Sometimes some of you have friends since the time you were little children, and you're in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s. You've still had some of these same friends, lifelong friends. And all of a sudden, as you become more divine, more elevated, more enlightened, more healed, more powerful, all the things, you would think automatically that your loved ones, your closest ones to you, especially ones that have known you forever, would support you and applaud you and be so proud of you and cheer you on that you are becoming more elevated and more powerful. Your ego is dissolving. You're healing and alchemizing your shadow self, the aspects of your mental programs that were crazy or critical or cruel or arrogant or entitled. You're healing all of that. Your emotional programs of victim consciousness, or the inequality that you feel so small or so superior, the emotional aspect of that. You're healing all of these things. And it doesn't seem to make sense that in a true awakening, you tend to lose a lot of people. Now, I'm going to put this in a different perspective. You grow out of people, you elevate out of the circle of people that you've been in. Okay. You elevate out of them. But why? This includes your family, siblings, parents, aunts, uncles. This includes them. Why wouldn't they be happy and proud of me? And for some of you that have really supportive friends and family, that's magnificent. Good job. In the future, in decades to come, when we've been through all of the turmoil of this massive, massive global shift in the consciousness level of humanity, and we get all of the darkness on this planet to be transformed, so there's almost none of that left, and we create the heaven on earth that we have the power and the ability to create, as long as we create heaven on earth within ourselves first. That's the deal. You create out there what you are inside. It is a reflection of you. Okay. So as we move through this massive, massive shift, this won't be the case anymore, because it won't need to be the case anymore. But it still is the case right now. The fact that people who authentically awaken tend to lose a lot of people. And a lot of times the people that are the closest to them, including their own parents or family members or whatever. So I want you to really understand what's happening on a deeper level. I've touched on this stuff before. People have asked these things before. I'm sure you're very aware to varying degrees, that you start setting boundaries with people that you didn't set boundaries before. As one example, they're not going to like that. If they're not growing, they're not going to like that. If they're not healing and becoming more powerful, when you change the dynamic of what they are used to, they're going to resist you and fight against your growth and elevation. Okay. but I'm going to go deeper. So hang with me for a minute. I'm just staying right now where most people, I think, have a general understanding of this, that you start becoming more powerful and using your voice to stand up for the voiceless. They're not going to like that if they don't already do that themselves. They're going to resist you. Pay close attention to the words I'm using. Resistance to you and what you're becoming. Okay? If you start speaking up for yourself, and I've mentioned the boundary setting, there's a thousand different ways and scenarios where we need to set boundaries, and all kinds of boundaries. And you're starting to really explore that and expand in your power to be able to set boundaries in very different ways, no matter what the scenario is. They're not going to like that. They being the people around you who are not used to you being that powerful. And if they are not that powerful, they haven't healed yet, they're not connected to their power and their divinity, then they're going to resist you, the new you, and you who you're growing into. Now, here is the real reason. The real deeper reason for that is energetically, you are energetically expansive. You are becoming more expansive. You are expanding. You are becoming more of the light, more divine, more divinely powerful, more balanced. If you're healing and evolving into a person of oneness consciousness. You're not extreme in your, masculine energies. You're not extreme in feminine. You're learning how to balance. You're integrating. And as you do all of these things, this is a key word. You are becoming more and more expansive. Okay. As you become more and more expansive, guess what that does to the people around you? They feel their smallness. You magnify in others everything that they are. The more enlightened you become, the more light you hold and expand into, the more elevated you become in your vibrational frequency and in your level of consciousness. If you are authentically, truly awakening for real, then you are expanding into a being of light, an enlightened being having a human experience. And as you do that, what happens in your presence is you magnify, you amplify what others are when they are near you. And what are others? What are others? All other beings are divine, light, love, me, me, me. Stop with the fucking spirituality bullshit. The truth of what everyone is a divine light being. The truth of what they are these enlightened, beautiful, wonderful things that we love to pretend we are, even if we're not. The truth, when you are not in this human form, yes, you are light. In human form, you are who you choose to be. If you are unhealed and you are broken and you are wounded and you have a ton of insecurities and you carry victim consciousness and you are a complainer and you are negative a lot, if you function in inequalities, so you're always whining and crying about in victim consciousness, like how unfair life is, if you're bitching and complaining about other people and you're projecting onto other people, then all of that is going to get magnified when you're going to feel it vibrationally. And that comes in the form of your emotions that you feel and the thoughts that you think when the person in front of you is a much higher level of consciousness. They are way more expanded than you are. And they are activating by their mere presence, by their mere voice, how they speak, what they speak, what they are saying, by their mere voice, when you just listen to them, when you just hear them, they are going to trigger and activate all of what you are. And don't we love to pay attention to those negative emotions, those negative thoughts when they come up, and we love to project, project, project. So what happens is we feel small in the presence of others who have the power to set boundaries and use their voice. And I'm talking about divine boundary setting, not this goddamn manipulation bullshit that people say, well, these are my boundaries. And you're just being a fucking asshole. You're being a control freak. You're manipulating, but you call it a boundary. No, I'm talking about actual healthy, divinely powerful boundaries. Okay. And when you set boundaries and when you say no to people and when you are expressing self love and confidence in yourself by saying, no, I'm not going to do that right now. In a very silly way, I was just with a bunch of people who I love and care about very much. And one person asked me a question and I laughed. And she's like, you're not going to tell me the answer, are you? And I said, no, because today's my day off. That was my answer. And I was dead serious, like, no, because I am, a divine soul having a human experience like everybody else is. And the human me needs to fucking rest sometimes. And the only way that somebody like me, with what I'm here to bring to the world and the way I help people, the only way I'm going to be able to rest and take any time off from people wanting something from me fucking constantly. You're never going to control other people that they don't want more of you, especially when you have really, you know, beautiful things to give to them, selfless service and divine wisdom, the way of wisdom, all of those things. Think about this, you guys. The more you elevate, you're going to experience this more. Of course, people are going to want more of you. You know, they don't function at an enlightened level yet. They're still learning. Of course, they want more. Okay. But if they don't have the selflessness and the self-control, and I'm not saying the simple example I just gave, the person was doing anything wrong. They weren't. I'm giving that because it was a real life example and I want the teachings, no matter how esoteric or how the degree of sacred wisdom, I want it to be practical and simple. That's why I gave that real life example. I'm in no way, shape, or form saying that person did anything or said anything wrong. They didn't. But here's my point. This is what I want you to learn. I want you to hear this, take this to your soul. Okay. That if people in general aren't going to know how and when to set loving boundaries, because loving boundaries is when to know not to ask for more stuff from the same person. You just don't ask. And again, I'm not saying this example I did. It's not like that person had no right to ask the question. She was perfectly fine. It was perfect what she asked. But in general, you have to become more powerful, which is everything that we teach at Masters of Self University. We teach you energetically how to become more powerful and connect to your divinity and allow that divinity to expand through you. You have to allow that to expand through you because I'm going to go back to my simple example because it's so perfect for so many of you to hear. I have to, after a live event the next day, I'm going to chill out. And I am not going to have people asking me for a ton of wisdom and channeling and the whole, the day is, I'm done. Okay. I need to recover from holding a live event. That stuff is tiring for me. And the only way that I would get rest is by me setting the boundaries to rest. I can't expect anybody else to do that. Now, listen, the more you evolve and the more you learn about the universal ways of oneness, I mean this very literally, the more you learn about the universal ways of oneness and you become them in the way of honoring, you will know when not to ask and when to ask people. You will know when to pursue and when not to pursue. And I don't care what the scenario is. Okay. But until you become that in the way of honoring of yourself, you have to learn how to become this for yourself first. That means you have to become a person powerful enough to just say no. So here's my simple example from yesterday. People who run the programs of obligation, people who run the programs of powerlessness, People who run the programs of people pleasing, people who are insecure, run programs of insecurity where, oh no, somebody asked for a question again, and I'm too tired to channel and get it and tap into anything for you right now. So the answer is just no, I'm not. And it isn't personal. Just the answer is no. And we laughed about it. I'm like, nope, because today's my day off. So no, I'm not tapping into shit. I'm actually blocking it. I'm trying to prevent anything from because the channeling doesn't stop for me. It's 100% of the time until I stop it and block it. Sometimes I have to just put my boundary there, or it's exhausting. So anyway, people who run those programs that I just mentioned, if you're a people pleaser, oh, but what will they think? Oh, they'll think I'm being mean. Oh, they'll think I'm arrogant. Because you have to be powerful enough to not give a holy fuck what anybody thinks of you when you are truly coming as and from the universal ways of oneness. Okay. There's always balance in oneness. Always. There's no such thing as being out of balance, or it's not oneness. It's not oneness consciousness. You're not functioning at the consciousness level of oneness, that enlightened level, if you are out of balance. Okay. And a simple example is, I know the rest and recovery energetically that I need after I put on a live event, for example, because we just had one. And in order for me to rest and recover, this is the way of honoring, the way of selfless service now to me. I was just in service for everyone else for hours and hours. Okay. And now today I'm going to rest and I'm going to recover to the best of my ability, right? The next day. And that selfless service means, I already said this, oneness, you are in balance. So when I am really tired from the day before because of everything that I did to heal, to teach, to elevate others, to expand their consciousness, et cetera, et cetera. All of that now I give to myself the next day in my recovery time, or the days that I need to recover from that. Does that make sense? So the way of honoring is, and the way of selfless service and the way of unconditional love is for now to give that to myself so that I can recover. I can energetically get the rest that I need. And so that I can then give 100% to myself in meetings with clients, in classes that I'm teaching and certifying coaches in, et cetera, et cetera. So in the days to come, so that I can be there in selfless service and all the other ways of oneness for you, when I'm working with you, when I'm recording a podcast and offering free teachings to you, for example, in order for me to do that for you and not be completely depleted and drained, I have to be the one divinely powerful enough to set the boundaries that I need to set with other people and other situations so that I can remain in balance. Does that make sense, everybody? That's part of what your healing journey means for you. No more people pleasing. If somebody is offended because I take time to rest and recover, they have some serious selfishness to heal and entitlement to heal within themselves. Do you see it? And that isn't my problem. I don't take on other people's wounds. They're not mine. Right? So let that sink in as I give you these just kind of real life, everyday examples of how this works. To become an enlightened being isn't about meditating on a goddamn mountain for 30 years of your life. It's not what it's about. That doesn't mean you're enlightened, by the way, just because you can do that. Just because you can have incredible, experiences during really deeply profound meditations and you've been doing it for a long time, so you're incredible at it, does not mean that you're awakened. That's not one and the same. It does not mean you're a highly conscious being. It means you're really good at activating things and going deep in meditation. That's what it means. Now, can you apply that and be in that same vibrational frequency? Literally the same. Can you vibrate at the same frequency right here, right now, in a challenge and a crisis, or on a rest and recovery day for you when, you know, then when you're meditating or when you're doing, what I do, just spiritual blossoming? That's a passive and active meditation simultaneously because I'm a being of oneness consciousness. So it's a little bit different. You function a little bit differently when you elevate into oneness. What we call and used to saying as meditation evolves a bit. And you're not doing one type versus the other type. You're actually doing both types simultaneously, right? So in that, can you maintain that frequency? Can you function at that vibrational frequency at that level of consciousness when you're moving through a challenge or when you are exhausted and tired and you need rest and other people still want things from you, right? Does that make sense? You have to be able to set the boundary and be done with it. Okay. So if I'm in a recovery and I need to rest that day and not teach and not heal and not do all the things that I do, so many days out of the week. When I am in that space, in selfless service, as the way of honoring, I have to choose to set the appropriate boundaries for me to set. And when you are not elevated enough yet, again, there's never a judgment. It's just a teaching so that you understand better and you can grow from the teaching. This is true spiritual education. When you don't understand that yet, people will get offended. Oh, well, she's not nice today. Well, she was short with me. Really, though? Are you sure? Are you fucking sure? Or did I just set a boundary and you didn't quite fucking like it? You wanted something different from me that I didn't give to you. And because of that, you're going to pretend like I had a bad day. Oh, we do this to our partners and our loved ones all the fucking time. How many times we don't listen? You don't read the fucking room because you don't have the level of self-awareness yet. How many times do you not read the fucking room? How many times do you just ignore because you lack the way of presence with your partner? So how many times has your partner said clearly to you something and you just fucking ignore it? How many times have you ignored it? You have no idea. It's not even on your goddamn radar that your spouse or partner said something to you over and they've told you 4 times now. And when they finally say it louder and short, they're the fucking problem. You're the problem because you lack presence and you didn't fucking listen the first time. Let that sink in. Well, you could say it nicer. I'm sorry. How many times do I have to say it nicely? 97 before you fucking hear it? That doesn't even make any sense. You guys, wake up to this. Wake up to this stuff. This is what unconsciousness is. You have no awareness you're even doing this. You don't even have the awareness. You're lost in your mind. You lack the awareness. And then you want people to say things in this patient, nice tone of voice, like you're a fucking baby. This is the kind of stuff that happens all the time. Right? Now think about that. Let this sink in and play that back if you need to, because you really have to understand that at a deeper level of how programs work to then understand on a deeper level why the real reason you're losing people when you spiritually awaken. And the truth is, you're not actually losing anything other than darkness and shadow. And sometimes you're losing, quote unquote, losing the person who you've been around for a long time or a family member. What are you losing? Codependency? Criticism, judgment? If the people around you that supposedly love you cannot and have no ability to honor you and applaud you as you elevate, they never fucking loved you, because that's not love. Let that sink in. That's not love. That's not love. It never was. It never is and never will be love. That isn't what love is. And here's one thing that I see a lot. I see this as pretty common thing. Here's a pretty common statement that I hear. When one person in their core group of people, whether it's friends, family, whatever it is, they're elevating, and then all of a sudden, their best friend, "I'm just concerned about you," or their parents, "I'm just concerned." Oh, "It's because I love you that I'm saying this to you. It's because I love you. I'm concerned." Oh my god. So, that's not love, that's manipulation, and that's them being so uncomfortable by feeling small around you, because they naturally feel small around you now because you are elevating and expanding your light and you are shining brighter and you are healing and you are becoming whole and you are becoming everything that you should be proud of and applaud yourself for. And when they don't, you tend to resort back to old patterns of second guessing and insecurity and all these things where it's like, why the hell are you willing to second guess from a person who is not on the same path, who is not learning what you're learning, who isn't evolving and elevating the degree that you are? They're not doing any of this, right? They're not elevating and becoming enlightened. They're not working with energetics and vibrational frequencies to help them see what their shadow self is and how much harm they're causing and then heal that, because that's the way of responsibility and the way of integrity and what enlightened beings simply do, what people on a healing journey and who are awakening spiritually, actually awakening for real, this is what they do. They look at their shadow selves. They heal the ugly aspects of them that have been programmed in. They heal all of the harmful, ugly aspects of themselves that are hurting and harming, have hurt and harmed other people, including themselves, and will continue to hurt and harm people if they're not healed and alchemized. A true mystical warrior always does shadow work. You have never fucking, and you will never awaken for real if you don't do shadow work. There's no such thing as waking up for real if you don't heal the ugly aspects of you that are hurtful and harmful to this planet and to other beings on this planet, including yourself. Okay. If those people around you are not doing that and then they judge and criticize you, and you cannot have that level of ignorance and powerlessness that you would actually take that in and listen to it. Come on now. Who does that make sense to? See it for what it is, with no judgment of them, but see it for what it is, as the way of truth. I am the way of truth. I can see your programs that you are running, your unhealed wounds, how small you feel in my presence. And therefore, I can drop in, I can become the way of compassion for you. I can become the way of truth. I can become the way of presence for you and all of your smallness right now. But I will not make myself small. I will not drop down to your level. I will never lower my bar ever again. And so I will set a boundary. And for unhealed people, you know what they're going to project onto you? You're arrogant. You think you're better than me. Oh, that's not the truth. That was a projection. You actually feel small in my presence. You feel insecure in my presence, which is why you are trying to pull me back down to your, I'm not lowering that bar. Don't pull me back down to your level. It won't work. There is no inequality. There is different grades that we function in at any given time. And I have elevated to a higher grade. And I invite you to come up here. The air is cleaner. The flowers smell more potent and wonderful up here. I will always welcome you up here. Join me, raise the bar on yourself. But don't you dare say that my self love that I am gaining, that my confidence that I am gaining means that I am arrogant now. That is you being fucking small. Knock that shit off in my presence. You see it? That is what we are meant to become. That is a powerful person who will not lower themselves. Don't fall for it. And that is the real reason why we lose people. They are simply not ready. And what are you really losing? People who are going to project onto you and judge you and not support you when you're doing amazing things to heal and elevate, if somebody cannot applaud you in that, they are not for you. I don't care if that is your spouse. I don't care if that is your father or your mother or your sibling. I don't care who they are, or your best friend for 35 fucking years. Stop making excuses. Stop it. If the people around you cannot applaud you and cheer you on as you are rising up, then they are not for you any longer. They have served their purpose. Okay. And when the more expansive you become, the more elevated that you become, you know what that actually creates for them? The divine spaciousness, openness for them to choose to heal themselves too, and to potentially come back around later when they are more elevated and they will no longer project onto you. You see it? Until then, let them have their own journey. Don't be selfish. Don't judge them. Simply set your loving boundaries, your powerful boundaries in telling people no. Okay. The more powerful you become, the easier it is to say no. And if anybody takes that personally, that's their fucking problem. It's not my problem. Me, either Rachel or any human being who is healing and elevating, that isn't your problem. Do you understand? I say I know you know this by now. Anybody who's been following me for a minute. I function in oneness consciousness. When I say give examples and I say I am representing any and all humans that this pertains to. I am you and you are me. Okay. If anybody new is listening to this for the very first time, you've never heard me before, I don't want you to be confused. That's how I teach. Okay. So breathe and let this sink in, because this really allows you to become more elevated in the vibrational frequency of the way of compassion. When you realize, oh my God, the mere presence of me, because I've elevated so much, I'm healing so much, I'm doing such an amazing job at becoming more powerful, more divinely connected to my soul, my inner guidance system, which is my soul. Guys, you're the person, the being that you should be listening to the most throughout your lifetime is your higher soul, the mastered self. Okay. But when you don't know how to listen to that all the time and you don't have the high levels of discernment yet, what's my ego? What are my programs versus my soul? Hint, hint, go to Masters of Self University and get a consultation, because this is what we teach you in our coaching programs, to discern the difference and alchemize all the things that block you and get in the way of you actually listening to your soul give you guidance throughout your lifetime. Okay. So go get a free consultation to find out more if you want help with that. But in the meantime, the number one teacher that you should have in a lifetime is your soul. That's your number one teacher. Okay. That's why myself and the certified coaches at Masters of Self University are so passionate about teaching that, showing people energetically how to do this, because you need you. Like, you need you. And you have you. You're never not there for you, except through the brainwashing and the conditioning that taught you how to self-abandon. We have to heal those aspects of ourselves and connect to our energetic power, our divine selves, and master what it means to be human and elevate to the vibrational frequencies of the universal ways of oneness and elevate into a being of oneness consciousness. Okay. And as you do that and you expand more and more powerfully, more and more of the light, the people around you who are not doing that are going to energetically feel small in your presence. They're going to feel small in your presence. That is natural. That is organically going to happen all the time. When they still carry programs of insecurities, and powerlessness and smallness and I'm not good enough and I'm not worthy, when they carry those types of programs in your expansiveness, they're going to feel small. They're going to feel inferior, which is why when you walk around with all that confidence, how dare you? They're going to project onto you that you're actually being arrogant and full of yourself and superior and you think you're better than me. All that nonsense, which is not anything of the truth. It's nothing but projections. Those are nothing but their projections onto you of how unhealed and wounded they are. Do you see it? So when you understand that that's what's going on and you see it for what it is, you can have compassion for somebody and set your strong boundaries both, because boundary setting is an aspect of the frequency of unconditional love, the way of unconditional love. And when you are able to do that and walk this earth like that in all of the scenarios that you will be in with other people, as that, showing up as these enlightened vibrational frequencies, you understand that a person is automatically going to feel small in your presence when they're not doing the healing work themselves. Anybody who now on the flip side of that, anybody who is truly doing the healing work on themselves, they're really diving deep into this work, they'll never feel small. They won't feel small, meaning those shadow self programs of being insignificant, of being inferior to you, of being not as important, of being unworthy, of not being good enough, all those kinds of things, the insecurities, the insecurities, the insecurities. They won't, that's not how they'll feel in your presence when they're truly doing the work on themselves, even if they have a lot of healing to do. Somebody could have a tremendous amount of healing and a really long way to go. In their, elevation and level of consciousness and all the traumas maybe, or the wounds or programs that they run. They might be still lost in a lot of their programs. And yet, when they really are healing, authentically healing, then they won't feel small in your presence. They'll feel the contrast of your presence. There's a difference. They'll feel the contrast of how expanded you are and where they are on their journey. And they will have the divine wisdom, the way of wisdom, the understanding that that doesn't make them inferior simply because they're in a different grade. Okay. They feel the contrast of where you are. And in the way of honoring, remember, oneness consciousness, the way of honoring is honoring you and them, honoring me and you, honoring you and me. So in the way of honoring, as somebody becomes the way of honoring, and you might be worlds apart from them, you might be really, really expanded compared to them, like just in contrast, in comparison. And they won't feel inferior to you. They'll feel the contrast. And in the way of honoring, they will love that. They will honor you for everything that you have accomplished and achieved in order to get to where you are. Because once you cross a certain threshold of your own healing and a higher level of consciousness, you cross a certain threshold and you have that epiphany of, oh my God, that person is enlightened. They are higher vibrational frequency. They carry that sacred wisdom because they have been through so fucking much. You don't get there by meditating yourself there. That's not how this works. You don't become an enlightened being by doing plant medicine and meditating. That's not how you become enlightened and powerful. I'm sorry. And if you're still in separation consciousness and a lower level of consciousness and you still got a lot of fucking unhealed programs running, you will misinterpret what I just said to meaning. You will misinterpret that meaning and you'll project onto me that you think I said, don't ever do plant medicine. Don't ever meditate. That's what you're saying. Never said that. True awakening is understanding when you're projecting onto another, when you're misinterpreting and then turning that misinterpretation into a projection. Self-awareness is the most critical aspect of true authentic awakening. That's why we teach you at Masters of Self University. What programs am I running? Oh, I'm triggered right now. What programs are you running when you are triggered? The first way of oneness is the way of responsibility. And it is the way of responsibility. When I am becoming that enlightened vibrational frequency, I know that the second I'm triggered, I have work to do on myself. And it is my responsibility to figure out what programs am I running right now. Is projection one of them? Right? That's what you learn in this work. It's hilarious to me that when I teach and I speak, um, people will comment, "Oh, you're rageful." It's hilarious when people actually say rage. They use the word rage or rageful. "You're filled with so much rage." I get that one, and it is fucking hilarious. Or you're so angry, because God forbid a woman be fucking passionate and actually use a voice from a place of divine power. And all these projections start shooting, into the comments from really weak people who are powerless and insecure. They can't handle listening to the way of truth or somebody who can deliver it with power. And all of that stuff, they're just projections, they're judgments. And that is your unhealed self projecting and judging. That has nothing to do with me. That is not a reflection of me in any case, in any fashion. And I use that as an example because people's own loved ones and close-knit group of people in their lives they will immediately do that to you when you start to heal and awaken for real, if they're not also healing and awakening. If they happen to be on the same journey, the same journey, meaning just awakening for real, healing and elevating, and that's their focus. That's a priority in their life. If they are on that journey, then you're going to get a lot less of that, if at all, but you're gonna get a lot less of it, and that's because they understand, they're learning this stuff too, right? But if you're around a bunch of people who are unawakened, and they're not waking up, and they're not healing and elevating, they will naturally begin to feel very insignificant, very unimportant, and very small in your presence. You magnify. The more enlightened you become, the more divinely expansive you become, you magnify and amplify everything that a person is. And guess what? When their shadow self needs to be seen, heard, understood, and listened to, when they need to understand what their shadow self is and they need to heal those things, that is what is going to be amplified to them. That is what's going to be magnified to them in their presence. Why? That's the best gift you could ever give them. That's why. That's why. Because not healing, ignoring it, and pretending like that shit that you have in your personality, that it's all your woundedness, all your traumas that are unhealed, that is hurtful and harmful to you and to everyone you come across. So, what is the biggest, most selfless gift? Why divinely, energetically, it happens without you ever having to think about it, say anything. You don't have to try, oh, I'm going to activate this now. You don't have to do any of that. The more enlightened you become, those energies activate those things in other people's energies automatically, simply by being around you, because it's the most important, divine, precious gift you could ever give to another human being, is to say, oh, you have these traumas that are stuck in here, ready to heal? No, okay, I won't judge you for that, but I'm not going to pretend like you don't have them. Let that one sink in. I'm not going to pretend like they're not there. Now, this can be really tricky for people to understand. I don't say that as an insult. I mean, I've lived this for a very long time. I can tell you, this one is really tricky for people to understand. Well, what do you mean? Like, you keep pointing it out, you keep telling them that they have this ugly shit and they need to heal it, They keep blah, 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 No, you just don't pretend it isn't there. Okay? I'm not gonna give, details on this, and I hope it doesn't make it a bad example. I'm not gonna give details for the sake of, um, identity and that kind of thing, respecting privacy. Um, but I had somebody ask me a question, much older, person ask me a question, and she was just she was running a program in front of a group of people. And this is a person who has never and will never do a goddamn fucking thing ever, no matter how small or little, to do a fucking thing to heal herself. Yeah, on any level, mental, emotional, physical, nothing. It doesn't matter how many physical problems, how many times she's doctor, how many is this and how much, chemo and how much whatever. It doesn't matter what the problem is this time. She's never going to do a goddamn thing to help heal herself or do anything in the way of responsibility. I'm not saying that in judgment. That's her life. That's okay. It's her free will choice. She can do whatever she wants. But then in certain settings, in front of people, she'll ask a question to make it look like she's curious. Oh, well, what should I do? It's like, oh, it gets fucking old. But in a scenario like that, I'm like, well, do you actually, let's be honest, you're not going to do anything that I tell you to do because you never do. I am happy to share with you if you really actually want to know. Do you really want to know? I'm happy. Do you want to just have an idea of what you need to do? Do you want me to give you a lot of information? Do you want me to tell you specifically what will help you right now? I'll write you a whole plan if you want it. Are you just curious? Like, help me help you. And it gives her the freedom to say, like, well, I'm just curious. I'm like, okay, I'll just give you a quick overview then of what, you would need to do, what it would require of you, and I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to do that. But this is what I mean when I say you don't pretend. Why? Because that particular person is an energy vampire. They will ask and they will ask and they will ask and they will pull it out. And you are an hour later, you're like, oh my God, if you ask one more fucking question, because you're not going to do anything with it. It's a waste of my fucking time and energy to go through all of this with you when everybody here knows you don't do shit. That is taking advantage of me and, leave me alone. Go talk about something else. Well, that's not very divine. No, it actually is the fucking divine path. That's why I'm teaching it to you. It actually is divine. Do you understand? Not allowing people to simply run their programs on you is what is divine. I'm going to say that one more time. I really want that to sink in. Not allowing other people to project and run and dump their programs and unhealed shit onto you is what is divine. You have to become awakened enough, self-aware enough, and powerful enough that when you've said it nicely 10 times, or for the last 5 years of your fucking relationship or whatever the scenario is, and they're still not listening, you have to be powerful enough to say no more. And in those moments, it isn't cookie cutter. Some people need the example I just gave. You're not going to do anything that I tell you to do. I'm happy to still answer you. And it's just letting that truth be there. Well, why do I still have this problem? Because you don't do anything to heal yourself, because you caused that problem. That's why you have that problem. And then you want a quick fix and a solution. And you're not even willing to do this or that, and that's okay. You can do whatever you want to do. I'm not going to judge you, but don't act like you don't know why you don't have the goddamn problem. That's an answer. That right there is divinity itself. Not allowing people to run their dysfunctional, unhealthy, fucked up programs on you in your presence. That is what is healthy. That is the divine path. And if you have a hard time comprehending that right now, that's okay. That is okay. But you still have elevating to do with your misteachings and misunderstandings and all the brainwashing out there of what it means to be divine. Never say a word, never say anything ever. Be passive. Of course, the brainwashers and the elites and powers that be of the world that run everyone in this entire humanity, all of humanity, enslaving all of humanity, wants you to shut the fuck up, sit down, and not say a goddamn word ever again about anything. Hello? They want you to be passive because that's the spiritual way. No, it fucking isn't. No, it isn't. And in some cases, I go back to my example, in some cases, you offer it in a certain way. And in other cases, you have to just say, enough, stop. You have to actually jar the person awake because you've said it for 5 years. They still don't fucking get it. And now enough's enough. You have to then be rude or be loud or have an attitude. And that's not you being rude or having an attitude. It isn't literally. If they choose to fucking ignore you, no matter how many times you've said it, that's them creating the dysfunction. That is them being a little fucking baby, a little immature boy, little immature girl who didn't hear you the first 500 times you fucking said it. So that little child, that wounded inner child, is asking for you to scold them and yell at them. They're trying to create a conflict. That's what we do when we are unhealed and unawakened. Do you see it? And yes, when you say it in a louder voice or you say it with impatience because you've had enough already, of course their knee-jerk reaction is going to be to play fucking victim and gaslight you and say, oh, you're stressed out. No, I'm sick of saying the same fucking thing to you. There's a difference. I've said it 5 million times. If you haven't learned it by now, not my fucking problem. And people need that sometimes because that right there, whatever programs they're running, that means that program, there's only one of two things happening right there. It is either so in their goddamn blind spot, they have no fucking clue. Hello, that's what unconsciousness is. We are behaving in ways and we have zero self-awareness that that's how we are actually showing up. That's why the work that we offer at Masters of Self University is so critical. Shows you everything in your blind spot so you can be free of it. And the only other option that's happening in that example is that you are purposefully, you're a narcissist, and you are doing it on purpose in order to torment that person, your partner, whoever it might be. And if that's the case, you're a fucking asshole and you deserve to be fucking treated that way and yelled at anyway. Get the fuck out of here. I don't have patience for you. No, you don't deserve for me to be patient. You don't deserve for me to be nice. You're the one with the fucking problem. Get away from me. And you have to understand from a high level what I'm trying to teach you and not interpret this from a lower level of consciousness where all you hear is loud voice scolding. Oh my God, that's never how you treat anybody ever in life. You're not divine. If that's the only way you can misinterpret this and you really don't hear the teaching, come back in 9 or 12 months and listen to this again. As long as you're somebody who's healing and elevating your level of consciousness, as long as you're elevating, you will hear this in a very different way at some point in the future. If you are running the programs like the examples that I gave, then you are probably very, very, very triggered by what I've shared. And that's okay. Like, you're gonna get triggered. If you have the program and the unhealed shit inside of you, you're going to get triggered when I give examples like this. And guess what? When I give examples about how to set boundaries, that means I'm talking to other people in your life, setting boundaries with you. You're going to get triggered by that. Are you going to get triggered and leave it at that and keep running your ugly, stupid programs that I'm clearly telling you fuck everything up? Or are you going to see, ugh, I don't like what she's saying. I feel that because I run those goddamn programs. And if that is the case, you have a choice right here, right now. You can heal them. You can alchemize them. You can go deeper into learning about them and understanding them so that you can become the way of compassion, the way of harmlessness and gentleness, the way of unconditional love, the way of loyalty for yourself, the way of honoring of your programs, loving them into transcendence, the way of honoring, the way of unconditional love are powerful, powerful vibrational frequencies that help your programs completely alchemize and transcend into those enlightened frequencies that you are becoming. You are becoming them yourself. And then you are bringing your other negative, unhealed programs to the surface to be embraced, seen, validated, understood, comforted, held by the universal ways of oneness, which is now what you are. Do you understand? That's what this work is. You become, it is a becoming. You become these frequencies that allow you to say, oh, I need to activate higher frequencies in myself right now because I'm super triggered by what Rachel just taught me, or by my spouse or partner, or by my, mother or father that I still have a very challenging relationship with, or my sibling who is not healing and is so unconscious and dumps all their trauma onto me. I'm the one healing in my family, and I'm the only one. It doesn't matter the scenario. It's you learn in this work, what programs am I running? What wounds do I have? How old is my inner child? And how can I literally on an energetic level activate and become the higher vibrational frequencies that are needed, that my inner child, my wounds need me to become right here, right now, in real time, in order to love and alchemize these, to literally transform them into the way of honoring, the way of loyalty, the way of unconditional love. Whatever way or ways of oneness are needed in this moment for this wound, for this ugly program, for this powerlessness, whatever way or ways of oneness are needed, that is what I need to become. You integrate and become that frequency in oneness. You call it in energetically, you anchor it inside of yourself. So that external enlightened frequency becomes internal, and you simultaneously become the external. That's oneness consciousness. That is what it means to work with the universal ways of oneness. Let me say it one more time. You learn to work with these frequencies by energetically becoming them. But what does that mean when you haven't yet become them? You start working with them in a way where you call them in, anchor them in. That external frequency now anchors inside of you. You become that frequency and emanate that frequency to the outside of you externally, internal to external and external to internal. That is an energetic process with every way of oneness. And that's just one of the steps of becoming the universal ways of oneness. And energetically, how do you do it? I mean, that's what I teach. That's what all this work is, right? So if you want to learn more, get a consultation at Masters of Self University. But until then, at least become aware of everything that I offered to you in this podcast episode. All right. If you are triggered by anything, you have to be willing to go inside and say, why am I really triggered, without projecting and blaming the other person? Because that just means you're projecting. You are the one unhealed, right? And remember that with the title of this episode, the real reason you lose people when you spiritually awaken. I hope you have a better understanding. They feel small in your presence, guys. They feel small in your presence. And that, by you amplifying, by you magnifying, by you becoming more enlightened, that highlights to them what they need to heal within themselves. That is a gift. That is a gift, period, end. It is a gift. It isn't the most pleasant gift that one can carry. I can I can tell you the level of blowback and resistance and projection that comes with that kind of fucking sucks. It's annoying at minimum, let me tell you. It is. It's fucking annoying. But it is also the most loving and selfless gift that you could ever give to another being. Because when you truly vibrate at enlightened frequencies, as enlightened frequencies, you are never magnifying and quote unquote pointing out, for lack of a better way to say it, meaning energetically activating and amplifying and magnifying all of another person's shit in your presence. By activating that process because of how enlightened you're becoming, it is the most selfless act of service that you can offer to them. It is as ugh, challenging as it is. It really is the most unconditionally loving. It is the way of unconditional love. It is the way of selfless service for that person. Even when it's ugly and uncomfortable for that person, it is such a gift. It is such a gift. I would never in my life want to have, I can tell you when I was younger and unhealed, trying to heal and struggling with all my wounds from my traumas and my whatevers. I can tell you, I mean, I used to just beg, like beg on my hands and knees, crying, begging my divine show me every fucking thing in me that needs to be healed. All of it. I don't care how ugly it is. I don't care how painful it is. I want every fucking thing in me that has been imprinted in there from this ugly, terrible society of fucked up patriarchy and misogyny and enslavement and all the things. Whatever has been imprinted on me, making me anything less than divine, I want you to show every fucking thing to me because I want it gone. I don't want any of that to be a part of how I show up in this world because it isn't who I am. It may be how I learned to be for a while, but it isn't the truth of what I am. And I always fucking knew that. Always. I knew that, which is why I never fucking lowered the bar. I didn't settle for being anything less than healed and whole because I know that each and every one of us is a remarkable, magnificent, divine being that is only here temporarily to be human. I know how magnificent. I know the miraculous ways that you are here to express yourselves. That is true for every human, every being, every animal. I know that truth about all of us. And so I wasn't about to settle for anything less than myself. And you can't raise the bar on other people on this planet if you haven't first raised the bar on your goddamn self. Otherwise, you're a hypocrite. And we don't do that here at Masters of Self University. I don't tolerate it. We're not hypocrites. We don't regurgitate a bunch of bullshit, a bunch of knowledge. We are healing for real. We elevate for real. We make sure we raise the bar. And in your own time, and on your own divine, perfect timing in your own journey, it's personal and unique to each person. You will get there. Don't stop. Just keep going. You will get there. And that never means you're not good enough. If you're doing it and you're doing the real work, you're doing it. You're good enough because you're doing the real work. However long it takes you to elevate to the highest levels, detach from that. Who cares? That means nothing as long as you're doing the real work. And along the way, as you are truly, genuinely doing that real work, shining your light brighter and brighter, other people in your presence will begin to feel very small in your presence. And that is okay. Because hopefully that will be the inspiration that they need to heal and expand and elevate themselves. And if not, they're just not ready yet. But don't you fucking lower that bar. Don't you dare. You keep going higher. Rise. Just rise. Rise above it all. Expand yourself. If they're uncomfortable and they feel small in your presence, guess what you do? Expand bigger. Get bigger. Rise higher. That's what you do. That is what you do. You rise higher. You get bigger. You never let someone who is staying small try to pull you down and make you small too. My response to that, I'm going to get even fucking bigger. I'm going to expand brighter. I'm going to shine my light more magnificently, so bright, so brightly that you're going to go blind in your smallness if you look at me, because that is your best chance at healing yourself. And I function in oneness. I don't shrink myself down for anybody. I don't care who you are. And that is exactly what we need for every person to start doing in order to create the spiritual revolution that we actually need to change all the ugly darkness and all the bullshit on our planet. How can we transform a corrupt, fucked up government who enslaves and steals from you if you can't shine your light brighter and brighter and brighter and more powerful every day? We need a revolution. But that is for another podcast episode. Thanks for listening to this one. Please comment below if anything inspired you. I would love to hear from you. Until next time, everybody, peace out.